Hello and welcome to Temple Street. I'm here today with Dr. Deborah Chambers to tackle a very important yet often swept under the rug issue, sexual abuse. Thank you for being here, Dr. Chambers. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Adriana.
I'd like to start by saying that you have a very impressive background, career in education and sexual abuse prevention fields. You have degrees across the board in human services, special education, and even a doctorate in educational development. You had a brief career with the Boston Police Department, but most recently your passion has been your nonprofit, DC Empowering Children.
Yes.
Tell us your motivation for the agency and what brought you to it.
Our agency empowers children and adults against sexual abuse. Our services are free for any victims. All are welcome. If you're a victim of any kind of sexual abuse, we are here to help. My passion started because I myself was victimized as a child. From basically 6 months to 16, I was raped by my adoptive parent, my mother's husband, my brother and sister's biological father. And it was the Chambers family secret, and that secret hurt me in ways I didn't realize, and it sent me down some really dark paths. And I always tried to move forward in a positive way. One of those positive ways was always looking for employment. That led me to become a Boston police officer. And while I was a police officer, someone I didn't know broke in my home. I was beat, raped, and robbed. And that led me towards a dark path, and I had to find a way out of it. So I went back to school. School became the catalyst for the career to fight sexual abuse. And here I am today. December of 2000, I realized after giving several conferences for surviving sexual abuse, basically for college credit, that I could make a career out of this.
You've shared your story on countless platforms, and before you've mentioned that it was shortly after your career with the Boston Police Department that you chose a life of drugs and alcohol. Was that a coping mechanism for you?
Exactly.
What led you there?
Smoking cocaine, and I can say it with pride. I remember when I was ashamed of it. I was ashamed. I hid, but no longer will I hide. And I'm not going to hide what helped me heal. I use smoking cocaine to block pain. A lot of people self-medicate, and then there's also the option to get medication from the doctors. I chose cocaine, and when I started not hurting from being a rape victim, when I became a survivor, I didn't need the drugs the same.
I noticed that you choose the term sexual abuse survivor rather than victim. Can you tell me why?
As a victim, you stay in a certain plateau. It doesn't move forward. It doesn't move backwards to the side. You're kind of stuck, and it's a lost situation. To move to survivor is a way of growing, acknowledging your hurt, acknowledging the pain. There's a shame that's attached to that. And that's where being a survivor is important. You have to reach a level and say, it's not my fault and I made it through. How do you make it through? That's a lot of work, but our agency is here to help.
What do you do now to help cope?
So because I have child rape and adult rape in my history, I do hurt from it. And I'm glad that you mentioned that point, because even though I do all of this work and I've worked really hard to heal, I still have moments where I hurt. Being raped hurts, and I like to acknowledge it. And how do I cope with it? One is music. I put on music, and I like to dance. One of my favorite songs is Ooh Child, Things Are Gonna Get Easier. That song told me at 9 years old in 1969 that this day right here would happen.
As a child, you mentioned that you wanted to become the person that you once needed when you were a child. Do you think that that's a vision that's been realized?
Yes. I today help other victims reach that state of it's not my fault and I can't change what happened, but I can change how I deal with it. I am that person because I'm answering the phone at 2, 3 in the morning for victims, because I was that victim who was sitting up at 2, 3 in the morning and couldn't sleep because of being raped, because of all the pain that I internalized, because I blamed myself, because I was this rotten person who had been through. It was all my fault. And then came the day when I realized it wasn't my fault. And that's what I show victims they are capable of doing for themselves. Sexual abuse healing is a redefining of who you are, because we're taught one thing and we have to learn the right thing.
I notice you smile when you talk about working with these individuals. What do you most value about the nonprofit?
The fact that someone can come in with no voice, silenced because someone else has taken the time to victimize them. Our services are designed to help a victim grow.
As far as non-victims who need to know more about the subject, education, prevention, the signs of abuse, do you offer services for that as well?
Yes, that is where it is so important to use education, because we're not just showing victims that there's a way to heal, we're showing those who are not victimized what to do. So if you're a parent or a caretaker and you see a child sucking their thumb, they are defiant about going with a particular person, if they're at school and all of a sudden their actions are totally different from what was, and they might have spent the night at someone's house or been with an adult or a teenager or another child their age, because children rape children. Once a child is victimized, they have knowledge and they have desires and they try to recreate what they've done with an adult. Sometimes adults instruct children to have sex with other children. So there's this whole mantra that people who are not victims of sexual abuse have to pay attention to.
You don't have any children of your own, but I know
No.
you have a host of people around the Boston area who call you Ma, Mommy, Auntie.
Auntie Debbie, Mom, Ma, I answer to them all.
What makes you so influential in their lives that they chose to call you that?
The pain that I received through being raped as a child, that's something I never want any child to feel, so I provide as much love as I can. And then it turns to be this nurturing emotion, and it turns to be a bond that we have with each other. I feel even smarter or even wiser that God's given me this blessing and I'm able to nurture them.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being here and taking some time out of your day to address this issue. And thank you for your extraordinary work in the community for prevention and education.
I thank you.
Back to you guys at the studio.